Hello, Temple. We'll start in just a second.
We can hear you just fine.
Hello, Dr. Temple Grandin. Thank you so much for being here. Let me move over a little bit so you can see me.
Okay, hi.
Hello. Hello.
Hi.
So I'm going to introduce Cal Herman's going to come up and just give us a land acknowledgement before we start tonight. And I'll introduce Cal Herman.
I'd like to acknowledge my future road.
Hi, Temple.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. I met you at an ALS conference a long time ago, and you were one of the best keynote speakers I've ever seen, so I'm really excited.
Okay.
I would like to acknowledge that this event is being held on the stolen lands of the Osage, Shawnee, Miami, Adena, and Hopewell people. I offer this land acknowledgement out of respect for all indigenous people of the past, and for all of their living descendants who continue to advocate for their rights to land and natural resources, protect the rights belonging to the land and natural resources, and offer hope to all peoples of this continent for building a better future for the Earth community. I recognize that this acknowledgement by itself is a small gesture, and that it becomes meaningful when coupled with authentic relationship and informed action.
Dr. Temple Grandin, who did not talk until she was 3.5 years old, now gives talks, teaches, interviews, has written nearly 24 books, and most recently, Navigating Autism. We are thrilled to spend this time with you. Welcome. We are ready when you are, Dr. Grandin. Can you hear us okay?
Unmute your road, Father. The road.
We're ready when you are, Dr. Grandin.
Okay, I'm ready. I didn't realize.
Yeah, welcome.
Okay, I think I'll just do a little short talk, and it looks like we've got a bunch of people there, and we can do some Q&A. How does that sound?
Sounds great.
All right. Now, how many of you that are here tonight have heard me speak before, talk about my past, or should I spend more of my time talking about new stuff?
About 30%.
Okay. Well, when I was a little kid, I had all the symptoms of autism and no speech. I can't emphasize enough the importance of early intervention. That is just super important. I was in early intervention by 2.5 years old. You got little kids who aren't talking, the worst thing you can do is nothing. And what's the most important thing you want to get 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds that are autistic to do? I want to get speech. I want to get learning how to wait and take turns at games, and skills like dressing and things like that. And on speech, a lot of these kids have a slow processor speed. So you have to give them time to respond. And we're getting some kind of feedback, and I know it's not coming from this side. I've got to give these kids time to respond. That is really, really important. And I just can't emphasize enough with teachers. I had them when I was a little kid. I had them in elementary school. My mother was always pushing me to do new things. Good teachers really make a difference. Now, one of the new things I've been working on is my new book on visual thinking, the hidden gifts of people who think in pictures, patterns, and abstractions. And there's kind of three different kinds of thinking. And you get somebody with a label like autism, dyslexia, whatever, or maybe ADHD, you might have an extreme object visualizer. That's going to be me. Or maybe an extreme mathematician. And then, of course, you've got verbal thinkers. Now, object visualizers like me are terrible at hypermath. And the kind of stuff we're good at is mechanicals, things, photography, art, and working with animals. Because after all, animals live in a sensory-based world. Now, I didn't realize that I thought in pictures and other people thought in words until I was in my 30s. They gave me a lot of insight. Then you have the visual, spatial, mathematical thing, patterns. I think in pictures, mathematicians think in patterns. And in the book on visual thinking, I've got scientific research that shows that these different kinds of thinking actually exist. And then, of course, you've got word thinking, or verbal thinking. And one of the problems we've got with verbal thinking on a lot of stuff to do with diagnosis is overgeneralize. If you ask me what to do with autistic 3-year-olds, yes, I can give you a generalized answer. It's going to be the same pretty much. But when the kids get older, things get a lot more complicated. And are you having a problem with bullying? Are you having a problem with sensory oversensitivity? What kind of problem are you having? This is where the verbal thinker overgeneralizes. I was on a disability talk this morning with a major university, and we got to talking about overgeneralizing about accommodations. Well, let's figure out some of those common accommodations a kid might need. Extra time on tests might be one of them. But different kinds of thinking exist, and they bring different approaches to problem solving. And I'm concerned that our educational system might be screening out some of the thinkers that think differently, and we need them. For example, visual thinkers like me, we're good at preventing a disaster because we can see risk. Let's look at something like Fukushima. I just couldn't believe it when I found out why Fukushima burned up. It burned up because they didn't put waterproof doors on it to protect the electric one. It's like electric emergency cooling pump. Yeah, it's not going to run on the water. And when you need that pump, you really need it. Because something really horrible is going to happen. That pump doesn't work. It's just that simple. And it's not going to work underwater. But what I've learned about the mathematical engineers, they don't see it. They just don't see it. You see, they can design a nuclear reactor, but you need people like me to say, you better put some watertight doors on it. Now in the past, I think a lot of famous inventors, Einstein, Tesla, Thomas Edison, were probably autistic. Yeah, kind of single-minded and mindedness of purpose. And then again, going back to the patent office in the 1800s, you had a blacksmith design the first grain harvesting equipment. That was mechanic. Bicycle mechanics invented the first airplane. That's the Wright brothers. And I'm a big proponent of hands-on. And one of the worst things schools have done was taking out the hands-on classes. Worst thing they ever did. And it's gotten to the point where there's specialized equipment that we don't make anymore. It's from Holland. Things like the state-of-the-art electronic chip making machine. It's from Holland. Yeah, because they didn't take out the shop classes. But just Cheryl just sent this to me yesterday in the Colorado newspaper. We're putting some of those classes back in, and that's good. And for someone who's my kind of visual thinker, real high-end skilled trades, maybe a good place to go. I've been watching really carefully what's going on with ChatGPT. It's not going to replace skilled trades. It's going to replace programmers. I was on Google News last night reading kind of an interview a programmer was doing with ChatGPT and was correcting his programming errors. It's like, it's learning, but it's not going to replace hands-on stuff. And I know Montessori's really into hands-on stuff. Let's talk some about sensory issues. One of the most common is lighting that flickers. LED lights that flicker, fluorescent lights that flicker. That's one of the most common problems. So if you want to figure out if the room flickers, take some video in slow motion. Take slow motion video. You want to wave, because I want to make sure you're playing back in slow motion. That's one of the ways. Lighting, number one problem in a lot of classrooms, offices. Okay, let's talk about sound sensitivity. If a child wears it's going to make it worse. What you want to do is wear it only when you have to wear it. Let's give the kid control. Put it on the real noisy thing and then take it off. Another thing is if the child's scared of certain noises, let them turn on the vacuum cleaner. Let them turn on the air dryer. Or whatever the thing is that's got the scary, horrible noise. Let the kid control it. That can often help get over some of the noise sensitivity. If the child does the turning on and off. I like to figure out very, very simple things that people can do. So when I got out in the workplace, what I learned was to show my work. I sold jobs by showing off my work. That's what I did. I showed off my work. That's what I did. I sold my work, not myself. I simply showed people my work. And I'm seeing too many parents getting so stuck in the autism box that they can't, they're overprotecting their kids to the point where their kids not learning skills. Like shopping, ordering food in restaurants, greeting people and shaking hands. They need to learn these skills. They also need to learn work skills. And work skills are very, very different skills than academic skills. And they need to be learning them. There's a big problem where I'm seeing with autistic kids is they're getting out of high school, getting out of college, and never had a job. Let's work on getting some volunteer jobs when the kids are 11 years old, where they're doing a task outside the family, where somebody else is the boss. That is really important. Well, since there's a small group here, what I'd really like to do is just open it up for questions right now, and I can see. So I'm going to start picking people. Okay, when I pick somebody, I find I have to really, I've got a harder and harder time getting questions out of my students today. Okay, I see somebody there with a bright blue t-shirt in the front row. How about that person? Yeah, right there with white writing on the front. Or at least it looks like writing from where I'm looking at it. No, I just get some questions going. There's a mic up here for people to ask questions. And I can't believe what a bashful group we got here. Okay, maybe the person there with the black shirt and the red pants might ask a question.
Hi, I'm so happy to meet you.
Well, I don't know, we're getting really hard on getting questions out of people. No, I just want to get discussion going. This is a small group, and I'd rather make it just more like discussion. Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, I am so happy. I've been excited to find out more. I'm a part of a group of women that are going to start a school. A lady that I met, her grandson has autism, and she's wanting to open a school up specifically for that. Also, my son is 11 years old. He is so high functioning at this point because of everything we've taught him that he doesn't test as autistic academically. What would be your advice for him?
Well, when you go to the restaurant, has he ever ordered food himself?
Yes, we have been working on socializing since he was 3 years old, and so he was the same at 3 years old, but I pushed him academically, socially, in every way
good.
possible.
Well, that is good. That's really good. And he's 11 years old. Maybe he can get a volunteer at church or something like that. Start learning these work skills outside the home. You know, about the age of my generation in paper routes, and I know those are gone now.
I have someone that was going to start taking him with them to volunteer at a nursing home.
Okay, good. That's good. Wonderful. Let's do it.
Thank you so much.
Because what I'm seeing with some of these kids is they're getting so overprotected. They're just not learning any skills. I'm seeing teenagers doing well in school. They've never gone shopping by themselves. They haven't been taught bank accounts and that sort of stuff. Saving money. They haven't been taught those kind of things.
As far as the school, I would like to ask for all the people that are willing should know going in to start this, some of the best
Start
and some of the
small,
worst?
start small.
Okay,
Now, I was in Hamilton, Montana, and there's a group called Heartism, like heart mentism, and they have a small program for very young children, because there was nothing in their area on the early intervention side, and they probably have 7 or 8 kids in it. One of the places where people get in trouble is trying to get too big, too fast, and a lot of these things fall apart if they get too big. In fact, I went to a special school for kids with problems, and when I first went there, 26 kids, and it was wonderful. Then I got to 80 kids because the state of Massachusetts dumped all their problem kids on them, and it turned into a gigantic mess. I was there. Don't get too big.
thank you for everything that you do.
I can't emphasize that enough. And then you get places where they try to open too many schools, then you can't manage it. You've got to have the right person managing it, and if it gets too big, it doesn't work.
I will share that with her. She has the heart and the passion to start this, and we're following her, and thank you so much for your advice and your time and everything you're doing to help people.
Well, and Heartism they're unfortunately right now, they got kicked out of the building. Because of the land, part of the property values went up, they gotta move. So right now, we're gonna be a big mess with moving out the building. I just was there last week. But that's an example of people in the community, doing a good job. In the store that they're in, actually, what used to be a pizza restaurant, has a full kitchen. And the pizza oven was still there, and then she lived upstairs. They fixed it up really nice. And they have to find another shop and open it up in. These are the kind of things you open up in the shop space, small shop space.
So the school that my son is going to, they are a wonderful school, but he just cannot learn the way that they're teaching. And so I have actually been trying to set up homeschooling for this year, because I just feel like we have no other option at this point.
Well, what a lot of homeschool groups do is they get groups together where the homeschool parents, where the kids can interact. Because I think it's really important for them not to remove interaction with other kids. I mean, there's homeschool groups where they might have 10 other kids. Okay, that makes a social group. So in some ways, some of these homeschools are actually turning into little small schools. But I'm kind of concerned about the kid who's just at home, and that's all he is, one kid just staying home. Then you're back in the COVID situation, and we know that's not good.
Well, thank you so much.
And then I've got a book that just came out on education. It's got some reprints of some of the stuff from the way I see it, but I also discussed the ABA controversy. It's mainly aimed at young parents with young children and teachers. And we get into all the discussion about ABA and things like that. And the problem with ABA is you've got all kinds of ABA and some of it is terrible. And it all gets down to the teacher, who your teachers are. And I find that with little kids, some teachers have the knack and some don't.
Yes, I currently work in ADA, and I have learned so much good and so much bad.
Okay, well, there's a lot of things that are good. Maybe you might want to discuss what you have seen, good and bad. I'd like to hear about that.
Okay, I would love to take everybody else's comment to talk.
No, I think this is a very, very important subject.
Okay, and so a lot of good things are, well, let's start with the bad, because that's what I see just in my mind. I love what they do for the kids. They do a lot of good, so I'm not at all putting them down at all.
Okay, what age of kids are you talking about?
I work generally with a population between 2 and 12.
Well, little kids, starting with the real little kids, okay.
Right. And so I do see a lot of good things, but also being in a room by themselves or only with 2 or 3 children. That's not really teaching them how to socialize. If loud noises bother them, constantly removing them from the situation or putting headphones on. On one hand, it is not showing them how to interact and deal with those things, because in life is full of noises. But then on the other hand, they get upset, they have a meltdown, they start harming themselves. It's really frustrating and upsetting because you want to help them, and sometimes you just don't know how.
Okay, now the thing is that on the headphones, what I think a good way to handle it is let the kid have them with them. You can have them with them. And then if you get into a noise thing you just can't stand, you can put them on. You know, if you want to explain now to a 2-year-old, I'm not going to explain to, but you're taking an older kid, explain that you wear them all the time, makes sense and it works. I'm not a big fan of the old-fashioned ABA where you're keeping a kid at a table for hours doing stuff with them. You know, and I've seen ABA that's much more flexible and really good. And then the other thing people forget is when ABA was invented, it was a little kids program. And it was meant to be phased out at age 5. I heard a seminar something 20 years ago from Tristan Smith, who was one of the students of Logos. And that's what he said in this seminar many, many years ago.
Yeah, they have already shown me that they are, I think outside the box. I push them because I know they can do it. And they're already succeeding and doing more than what is on our recorded amount of what we're supposed to work with them on. I play with them, I do work.
Well, I think some ABA is way too rigid.
Yes.
And the better programs now are putting sensory integration in with it, recognizing sensory problems, and much more flexible.
So on a daily basis, I also teach daily living skills, even if it's not a part of the program, because I feel like it's important. It's something that's
I think it is important.
Yeah.
So the ABA program, if you follow the strict ABA, it would have no living skills being taught?
It does, but minimal, depending on the child. But you know, it doesn't take much to teach them and work with them on a daily basis, just to do simple things such as sit at a table and be able
Well, that's right, yeah. Well, that's right, things like learning how to set the table and just learning basic stuff. You know, that some ABA programs are way too rigid. You know, doing something, well, here's an example, stupid ABA program was making a kid sit on a table 10 times in a row. Well, nobody does that.
Yeah, sometimes they forget that they're kids.
Sometimes you get too rigid. The thing I always, when I talk to parents, let's say early intervention, 2 through 5, and they say, we're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing this. And you need to be doing something 1 hour a week of speech at the school. That's not sufficient. Okay, let's say I'm doing something a bit more than that. I will ask, are you getting improvement? How do I define improvement? More speech, more ability to wait and take turns at games, and more skill, like dressing and combing their hair and stuff like that. That's progress. You know, then I said, and then you know, then you're doing the right thing. But one thing that's not sufficient is the 1 hour OT, 1 hour of speech a week is not sufficient. And like in low-income situations, I'll tell those parents to go into watch the OT and get homework, watch the speech teacher get homework, and then get some help. The mom cannot do it all herself. No, got to get help. I mean, go to your church or whatever, ask the grandmother's help, the mom has got to get help. She's going to get completely stressed out for us.
These families, they need help, they need hope.
Yeah. And I will absolutely horrible. You know, they can't, can be really, really severe. Now, there was one thing on me that was a good sign when the 2.5, I did not have epilepsy. There was no sign of epilepsy, and that usually, improves the prognosis.
The last thing I want to say to let everybody else talk is, that is why I have pushed my son, not to a breaking point, but pushed him might not have not accepted them saying that he can't do that, because had I accepted that, he still would not be talking.
Well, that's just it. What you have to do is, you have to stretch these kids. You have to stretch them.
Right.
And you don't push them to where they're going to love them. That good teacher knows just that hard to push.
Yes.
You get progress without causing sensory overload. That's the school.
Dr. Temple, I wondered, our school has leaned into the RDI process, relationship development intervention, and I wondered if you had an opinion about that versus ABA.
The other right teacher that works uses, you know, the thing is, I want the outcome. The 3-year-old, I want speech, I want ability to wait and take time to game, I don't care how much about eye contact, and I want skills. Dressing, eating, setting the table, shaking hands, with all kinds of skills. That's what I want out of 3-year-olds. And if you're getting that, then you're doing the decent program. And the kids also like doing therapy. Therapy should not be, you know, awful. Therapy should be fun. And the good teacher, we're going to get progress, and the kid will like doing the therapy.
Hi, Dr. Grandin. One, I just want to thank you for being here, but I am a parent of, my son is actually in the audience right now. He's a 12-year-old, he's autistic, ADHD, and highly gifted. He did not have early intervention, even though I saw that very early on. And I know one of your big things is that early intervention.
The early
He was
intervention
speaking
is
at
speech
9 months.
No, if there's no speech delay, then they don't get early intervention usually. I'm talking about kids that are not talking.
Yes,
early
but
intervention.
how does somebody who has all the other things with autism, he spoke on time, if not early, but he has all of the sensory things, he has the anxiety, he thinks like you do, he thinks outside the box, and he's also gifted. How do we then support him and provide what he needs, knowing that he didn't have early intervention? What he's feeling in this moment is nobody understands him.
Well,
It's
the
like
early
you're
intervention, biggest thing to do with early intervention is talk. Okay, let's just talk about, is he doing okay in school?
It depends on what your definition of that is. It is bright, but because of emotionally and socially, he is struggling in that, and
All right, and
academically, he's gonna be fine.
academics is fine. Where I had friends was friends who shared interests. That's where autistic people get friends. Friends who share interests. It could be touch club, music club, it could be robotics, it could be electronics, it could be art, it could be photography, it could be all kinds of things. Friends through shared interests. That's where they get friends. All right, what's your son good at?
He's really good at a lot of things. Math, he's great at. He reads well above his level and loves fantasy books. He loves Pokemon and loves electronics and trying to figure them out. But
Well,
to
in
people that,
Pokemon, they have a story, you go look for stuff outside.
yes,
That's you can do with other people. And it gets it out and get them some outside. Maybe start a Pokemon club, and we're gonna go outside and look for the stuff. Something like that. And then I've done books to get kids on the electronics, this is Calling Our Minds. My kids' project book, the parachutes and kites that I made. And I have another book called The Outdoor Scientist. Those get kids outside doing things they can do with other kids. These are some of the things that need to do.
but if he has the support to do those things, and they're still, any advice for him?
Well, they won't do the things.
The connection, making those connections, like, do you have advice for a child that is
Well,
struggling
let's
with
start
making those
with connections.
connections?
Maybe that'll make the connections. You know what mom did? The kid liked Minecraft, she worked in Lumberton and had 2 whiteboards cut out. Then they had the kids in the neighborhood sing under 2 whiteboards, paint them in the Minecraft colors for Minecraft blocks in the neighborhood. He was a big hit of the neighborhood.
Okay,
Something like that. That's something a mom did, but actually worked.
thank you.
something like that. Oh, let me tell you something else, what they make on an Amazon box. And let me tell you some secrets about the Amazon boxes. They have secret codes on them. Besides the boxes, get enough of them, you'll figure out how you can build things with them. Take one up, hang up. That'll be a lot of fun. Or you can do this way. Or how about a robotics club? You know, things like this in school, when you have that. The thing about the Minecraft blocks is they don't cost nothing, you know. They cost nothing. But these are things where you make the friends who share interests. Another teacher, when the kid was 10, she started a Star Wars club at the school. And the autistic kid loved that, and then he got friends in the Star Wars club. Okay, I'm just giving you ideas of simple stuff you can do.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Hey. And the other thing that's going to help on anxiety too is exercise.
Thanks for saying that. Actually, I'm great. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you just fine.
So I'm curious if, when a learner thinks in pictures, how might you be able to get them to communicate their ideas that traditionally we may ask for in a written way? How might we encourage them to still share what they know in a pictorial or visual way?
I don't have to, when I write, I just narrate the pictures. I narrate the pictures that are in my mind, right? That's what I do. And you might want to read the book Thinking in Pictures, and I talk about how I think. And there's also a lot more information on this in this book. And the information in this, any kid like, 8 or 9, 10 or up, the different kinds of minds are in here. And it talks about how to communicate with them. The first step is realizing that different minds exist. That's your first step. And I talk to business people all the time. We need the different kinds of minds, like the water system's gonna fall apart otherwise. The ChatGPT not fixing that.
Hi. Dr. Grandin, I have 3 children, and one of our children we're going to have evaluated. We believe they're on the spectrum.
How old are these kids?
My son is 6.
Okay.
And then I have a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old. We're almost 8-year-old. But how, as a parent, navigating having multiple children and one has different needs, explaining to the other children,
Well, one of the things,
we do things differently with this child.
he got to this age without being diagnosed, because obviously didn't have a lot of speech delay.
He did.
Obviously, I knew that I was really messed up.
Well, he did, and then when he was adopted, and when he came to join our family, he didn't speak, and then had like a big speech explosion around like 3 to 3.5.
Okay, good. Then the organization worked. Okay, good.
He didn't get fixed speech therapy, but just from like living with us and just absorbing.
But he got speech. So what's his problem then?
Well, he has a developmental delay, and he's been diagnosed with ADHD, and his
Now,
pediatrician.
that's talking over with autism.
His pediatrician wants us to have him evaluated for autism as well.
Well, then you have to go and look at, one of the big main reasons we get evaluated is to get services. The
Yes.
schools won't give services without, so what's happening in school right now?
He gets occupational therapy through his IEP, and he started on medication for ADHD. That's been very helpful.
That's been helpful.
It's been successful. But I guess as a parent, how do I navigate talking to my other children about that their sibling needs different things? And so sometimes we do things differently with them than we might with the other children.
What Mrs. Gates, my third grade teacher, did is she explained to the other kids that I had a disability that was not visible like a wheelchair. And that they needed to be helping me and not torturing and tormenting me. And that's called peer-mediated intervention. The other thing is, you don't want to have a situation where you're paying so much attention to the autistic kids that the other siblings get kind of left out.
Right.
That's something you don't want to have that happen. In fact, my mother's talking some of her talks that she realizes that that was a problem because there's 3 other kids. My sister Izzy, is a year and a half younger, and she was the one that got left out. The other 2 kids were way younger and had much less effect on them. A lot of times my sister got kind of left out, and you know, there's just, you know, fully verbal. You then got to look at what kind of help does he actually need.
Right.
The problem with autism is you're going all the way to Einstein to someone who can't trust themselves.
Right, and we try to explain that, and I don't know if this has maybe been the right language, but I did talk with my oldest child about how his brain just works differently. And so he thinks about things in a
That's a
different
good way to
way.
put it. That's a real good way to put it.
Okay. Thank you.
Real good way.
And she
It's
kind of
helpful with it.
understood that, and I said, he's thinking about, his brain is thinking about it in this way, whereas you might be thinking about it in this other way.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about it like you, but we have to
Yeah.
understand that it might take him longer to understand what we're saying or to process a situation.
Well, the process is being slower. I'll tell you a few little tips.
Okay.
Long strings of verbal information do not work with these kids. Period. They don't have the processing speed. They sometimes are slow to respond. Tasks can involve sequence. You might want to make a pilot's checklist. Real simple now.
Okay.
And this is one of the supports that comes up all the time. You see, and if you have a lousy working memory, then I need an external working memory that maybe the steps to do something. Or if you work in a skilled trade, what the boss wants built that day, just write it down. Because they have trouble remembering sequence. That comes up all the time. That's a real school accommodation that can prevent jobs from being lost.
And he does have trouble with that at home.
Well, that's typical.
Okay.
That's very, very typical. And the accommodation is simple. And if some boss or somebody thinks it's stupid to do this, you just say, pilot, use the checklist every day, and the FFA will wax. So, the English is pretty good. You know, so you just say, pilots need a checklist, I need one too. Okay,
Thank you.
that's simple. It's a thinking difference, and there's a number of books that they're children's books that tell about my life, things like that might be useful, but you see, the problem with autism is in the mildest forms, it's just a personality forms. And then the severe forms, you've got a gigantic disability. And then the people that get diagnosed later in life, getting a diagnosis is often a relief because it explains why they're having problems with relationships. So it's often a relief to get the diagnosis.
Hi, Dr. Grandin. My name is Melanie Milne, and I want to represent the more severely affected individuals. My son, Jeffrey, is 23. And he is a non-speaker. And my husband and I have just founded a nonprofit organization that we hope to launch soon to employ special needs adults. And he communicates by alternative communication, and he wanted me to specifically ask you what should we focus on in our vocational program?
Well, they're capable of doing real work, and some of the non-speaking also can learn to talk. I'm sure you've read books like Tito Makapakahe, How Can I Talk When Lips Don't Move, Carly's Voice, and The Reason I Jump. And I like the sequel, The Reason I Jump. It's a better book. He's older, has a lot more insight. And anyone who's working with older, non-speaking, I recommend those books. And they're all available on Amazon. In fact, they just put the How Can I Talk to Livestock moved back into print. Both out of print for a while, and only available as an ebook. But I checked it out 2 days ago, a week ago, and it's back in print. And that's actually one of my favorites. How Can I Talk About Livestock Move? They talk about problems with sensory issues, problems with sensory juggling, problems with difficulty controlling movement. But some of these people, they've got a good brain trapped in a malfunctioning sensory system and motor system.
Yes, that's exactly the case with my son. Just the past year and a half, he found a communication program called Spelling to Communicate that has revolutionized his world, and he now communicates and writes on a college level. It is absolutely
And
amazing.
how does this communication software work?
He uses a letter board, and they start out with holding a pencil and using a stencil board and poke through the letters. The practitioners support the motor system and use very low comprehension type questions at the beginning to form the motor pathways. And then as they form those motor pathways, they are able to up the cognitive level on the questions that they ask. And the goal, of course, is open communication.
And Tito, he types on a little keyboard thing, and let's say, one thing is 10 to remember the processor speed. Okay, on this laptop, my keyboard's way down below the picture. But then, on the screen, the print's gonna appear here, like on this desktop. And the problem is, most of these individuals cannot make this shift.
Yes.
Or they cannot do that, so they print has to appear next to the keyboard. So that's why tablets will sometimes work.
Right.
And the other thing that somebody did 30 years ago, they put a box on the desk and put the keyboard on it. So then the keyboard is way up here, and the printer is did it on a desktop, with the keyboard on a box. I like that, just give all the options, because we have so many low-income folks, I like that stuff they can do.
So,
And tablets are around, then you get that plastic grid that goes over the tablet to help guide the fingers, that's helpful to some people.
right. So back to the vocational piece, we're going to be employing all adults with special needs, not just autism.
Okay,
but
okay.
because our son is a non-speaker, that's our passion. So we definitely want to include them as well. So anything specific, we have certain products that we would like to make, we're being mentored by an organization who's already doing this successfully, and I just wanted to see.
Well, I've been to some very nice ones. One is Benjamin's Hope up in Michigan. They're doing some very nice stuff. And then there's a place down in Texas that's really nice. I always mess up the name, like Brookstone or Brook something.
Brookwood and Georgetown, they're the ones who are mentoring us actually.
Okay, but they make little religious statues, and they plant poinsettias. Everybody had a job, and I thought they had a very good program.
Yes.
Those are two that I actually visited.
Awesome. Well, it's good.
Yeah.
We must be on the right track then.
Yeah, and the thing is, they're doing real work.
Yes.
That's the thing that's really important, not faithful, it's real work. They sell the statues in their store. They sell the plants in their store. They ship the plants out. They got greenhouses full of poinsettias. That's real work. And I think that's important, and they know there's a fake work and real work. Those were two programs that I thought were more non-speaking, they were others that, developmental delays, and they figured out them to do. In fact, one of the clients is the parking police. And they gave him a safety vest and a baseball hat from the Houston Police Department. And he made sure all the cars are parked right. They gave him a sheriff's badge to put on the safety vest. He made sure everybody parks the cars right.
Yes, I love that so much.
But that's what easy thing to do, and it gives them a purpose.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you. I appreciate it very much.
But those were two programs that I thought were excellent. They are private programs unfortunately have giant waiting lists. And the Benjamin Help was started by a mother of an autistic child, but non-speaking. I can't remember, I got trouble with names, it's Woodstone, I sometimes forget that. You know, that used to work on Woodstone.
Dr. Grandin, would you like us to put on your slides?
Oh, you know what? I didn't even know I was gonna do slides.
Okay, that's
I
fine.
didn't even, I forgot that you had them. And we already talked about a whole bunch of stuff that was on the
Sure.
slides.
That's all fine, yeah.
And there's one thing, let's just talk a little about the slides. People can have the slides. I talk about the 3 different kinds of thinking. There's slides in there that show the object visualizer, the mathematical pattern person, and then the word thinker. And then I talk about how they look at information. There's a whole big section on famous innovators that probably are on the autism spectrum. I also have pictures that are in my portfolio of how I got my business started, and the drawings and the things that I showed people that show how how I got jobs by showing off the portfolio of my work. The portfolio is in there. Then there's a whole big part on sensory, the LED lighting, the sound sensitivity problems. Another thing that's discussed in the slides is driving. That is something that's going to take a whole lot more because of the working memory issues. Practice, until we say practice for maybe 5 times more before you do track. You've got to get the operators of that vehicle on autopilot in a motor memory before you do any traffic. Well, that's all the stuff that's on the slides. There's also some fun stuff at the end, some educational resources that are free online. That's in there. There's a whole lot of, they're welcome to have the slides.
Okay, great, thank you.
And there's scientific references in there that back up what I'm telling you. What's in the visual thinking book is there's a lot of science behind that, and that the different kinds of thinking exist. And that most so-called normal people are mixtures of the different kinds of thinking.
I wonder, Dr. Grandin, in our teens program, in the last 2 years of their program, they go out into internships. And about 24% of our population is identified for special education. And oftentimes when we have children that are neurodiverse or teens that are neurodiverse, it's trying to help the outside population to know how to support them. And I wondered if you ever considered writing any pamphlets for the workforce, or if you have any that you've written.
I've got some stuff, I've got some stuff that kind of put up on the website. Let's talk about it in the workforce. The pilot's checklist. Do not use long strings of written instruction. That is not true, period. In fact, there was an electrician's apprentice job lost because the electrician would go yak, light fixture, yak, light switch, and then the person installed it for them. If they had just been allowed to write down a list of bullet points of what to install in order to install, that job would have been lost. So the pilot's checklist is super important. Getting away from lights and quicker. You see, we got to start looking at what specific accommodation. Maybe they need sensory breaks. If they get too overwhelmed with sensory. We need to get specific. But there's certain things that come up all the time. I do not want them on the McDonald's takeout room. There's too much rapid politeness. Chaotic stores during the holidays. That's why I don't want it. Now let's just look at accommodations that you can do just in the neighborhood. Like for example, an autistic lady worked at McDonald's and she did the cash register. But when the store got busy, they let her clean tables. Because the multitasking got too hard. When the cash register got really busy. So there's some basic things. Working memory the problem, long strings of verbal information is not good. Written instructions and bullet points. Think, okay, you have to operate a machine or something, give them a checklist. You got to take a piece of equipment apart, clean it. Checklist, how to do it. There's been a lot of jobs lost because they didn't do the checklist thing. That's just about a given. And the multitasking, you gotta avoid that. The other thing is, you can't be vague. A person got fired from Walmart that wanted to sell video games because he said he was too aggressive with customers. Okay, what do you mean by that? You need to explain to them. You don't follow them around the store. You walk up to them once with a video game to show them, and if they're not interested, you back off. You just give them clear, vagueness doesn't work. Vagueness does not work with these people. Or you want to say, watch Susie how she approaches the customer. Copy how he does it. Vagueness absolutely doesn't work.
Yeah, that's
The thing with the remembering long strings of verbal information, that's come up over and over and over again, and piles of jobs are lost. They'll say, well, I already showed how, works at, McDonald's, whatever, thing, and was it stupid, you can't do it? Well, if it had been written down bullet points of how to do it, they'd be able to do it. Let me say, pile up your checklist, they all need one. If anything involved, I want to get rid of the verbal sequence. Now, you don't need a checklist for something like, okay, go empty the trash. You don't need a checklist for that. But you got more than 3 steps that gotta have checklists.
And I assume you would also advocate for the child or teen writing their own checklist.
Well, yes, they can make them what they need to say. Okay, like you said, the electrician's apprentice, and there's 2 apprenticeships who lost over this. The child needs to say, let me judge this is an adult, wasn't a child. Let me write down the list of electrical stuff you want me to install and the order you want it installed. Let me just write that down. Because you see, every day, the stuff they install changed. They're wiring a house. But every day, you've got something different to install. So every day, you write down a checklist of stuff you install and where to install it. Yeah, 2 jobs get lost over that one. But those are things, there are certain things I found that come up over and over again. Working memory, they don't have them. And the rapid multitasking, McDonald's takeout window, I want to avoid those jobs. That'll set them up for failure.
Thank you.
It comes up all the time.
Yeah.
And then, the other problem, people get too vague about accommodations. I talked to a lady doing a PhD in vocal rehab, and I quit a job at a store because didn't get accommodations. So when I said, now what was the problem? Well, it turned out it was Christmas time, there was one Christmas song that was like a sensory issue. Well, you could have like taken it off the plate. But you see, in that situation, that's a sound thing. You find out if it would hurt sound, it would be an issue. Well, I could have taken that song off the playlist. But you have to, dig down and find out what the problem is. You see, the verbal mind tends to overgeneralize. We got to do accommodations. What I'm finding is there's certain stuff that comes up all the time where you need an accommodation. That's the pilot checklist. And you have 2 kinds of things. You have things where it's like teaching to close out the cash register. You have a checklist, and after a while they won't need it anymore. And then you have where they say you tell them to change everything. You have to make a new checklist every day. So I like when I tell you about stuff that just comes up over and over and over again.
Thank you.
Well, hopefully that will help with is trying to figure out the stuff that's really important and not lose jobs over that. The other thing is don't be late. That's another issue. And that's pounded into me and like today in school, because I know I have to talk to the crowd and I got a war. That's another thing that ticks off employers is chronic lateness.
Thank you. I have no
Okay.
directly with a lot of neurodivergent children. And I'm just curious, because we know that neurodivergent people find each other, right? And maybe have really special relationships with other neurodivergent people. But it can also be really tough, right? Because we're all struggling with social communication. So I find that a lot when I'm working with neurodivergent children, is I have a lot of empathy and I can kind of look at things in a different perspective than maybe neurotypical people have, but then I also have the same social communication struggles that they have. So I'm just wondering what experience you have and how you have worked through that, since you obviously interact with so many people.
Well, I've learned to, learn how to, do basic, what I call business social. Now, this is another book, you might be as different, not less. This is 18 people diagnosed later in life, telling about their experiences in their own words. And for a lot of them, it was relief. And it helped them with things like marriages and relationships. Because the thing is the things that, I think half the world's social emotional, the other half of the world's more cognitive and gets interested in interesting stuff they do. For people that are more social emotional, they kind of don't get that. I had a lady come up to me at the Denver airport, and she said my book, Thinking in Pictures, and saved their marriage because now she understands her engineer husband, who was probably on the spectrum.
I have a question. So you mentioned about, repetition when these learners are trying to figure out, how to communicate with their peers, and repetition until it becomes automatic. I'm trying to think about how to support learners that are working on this, the repetition.
The repetition for what now?
Social interactions that are safe. Not harming others. When they're frustrated, they're not communicating what they need to, and so they're throwing an object at
being really good, okay? I've learned business social, like shaking hands and things like that. I have learned not to go on and on and on, talking about something I'm interested in, like nuclear power plants or something like that. People are going to get bored with that. I avoid controversial subjects. In fact, in one of my books on employment, I go, sex, religion, and politics. Don't bring it to work. Period. Just don't bring it to work. Yeah, pets and sports, yeah, you can talk about that.
And so a learner that is working on, just communicating to their neighbor that they need space, and they're, instead of speaking those needs, they're maybe pushing that person over or throwing something at them. And so...
Okay, now, is that only a verbal person, or what situation is this, an adult?
6, 7 years old.
Okay, so a young kid.
Yes.
Okay, this is why I gotta know age when we're talking about things. If I had pushed a neighbor, there would have been no television that night. That's what would happen if I'd done that. If I threw a tantrum, there was no television for one night. Just one night, when I was that age. No, there's stuff you don't do. So why was he pushing the neighbor?
They were too close to them, they wanted space.
And they were outside, or?
Inside, working on a dry erase board, and the other child wanted to see what they were working on.
Okay, so the autistic kid shoved them.
Possibly, not diagnosed.
Well, the thing is what the kid needs to be taught to do. He needs space to just say, I need some space to walk away.
Right, and so these things are, yeah, and so they're working on these, every day. Like, that's the repetition, I think, that I'm understanding from you is, until it becomes automatic, that interaction.
Well, then you walk away. Now, is this kid fully verbal?
Verbal, it seems, I'm not sure. We don't. they can communicate some things, some, I don't know.
You know, this is where I was to see, this is the verbal overgeneralizing. You gotta find out, is it a school, you know, so the neighbor, they work on a whiteboard, and he needs to be trying to get too close to him, and he bothers him, he doesn't work in my space, and that's what you gotta teach him to do. You know, hit and you don't push.
Right, and so I'm curious, you know, while they're working on that, because it's day after day after day, we're supporting them with that advice that you gave us.
Is he learning?
Some days yes and no, and it's been several months.
Well, now one of the things, instead of just telling him, you have somebody get in his face and he does the right response?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Well, maybe the way to maybe learn it is, let's say somebody gets too close to him, does he have the right response? Say, I need this space and walk away?
Is he able to be successful sometimes?
Yes, successful sometimes.
Yeah.
Yep, and then other days not, so.
And a lot of times these things get worse when they get tired.
Yeah,
When they get tired, it's stuff they do. Well, my mother made that observation. When I got tired, everything got worse.
Maybe that sensory break.
Well, maybe we need to just work sensory breaks in. Work it into schedule to have some sensory breaks so that he can not get so agitated. Work sensory breaks into his program, then he might tolerate the people near him now. Or he can learn to ask for a sensory break. That's something you can do. Yeah, a lot of these kids, their sensory systems like a microphone turned on loud. There was no volume control. It's either off or super loud. They kind of brain part doesn't have volume controls. That's kind of like what it's like. I don't know if that's helpful or not. In the book, The Autistic Brain, in this book right here, there's a whole chapter on sensory that might be helpful. But their sensory system, it's like hyped up. And certain stimuli that you wouldn't even feel is like super loud. So he might need sensory work. Have you had a good keyboard group that knows about sensory treatment?
Not currently. We're getting through the process right now for speech language support, which just came back as, you know, significant, that we need to get a plan in place, yeah. And I guess, you know, my biggest question was, you know, well, you know, how much to repeat, especially when there's physical harm. So, you know, I realized it seems like,
But you see, I understood consequences. Some kids don't understand consequences. And anything involving physical stuff was no television for one night. And we understand that. It was just one night, and Mother didn't, I can't keep yelling. He just said, we know the rule, you entertain come at school, this is each call, you know the rule, there'll be no television tonight.
you're saying that would be, successful.
She's saying
Oh,
that's
okay.
Well, it worked for me, but the thing is, I understood the consequence. So I know if I threw a fit at 2 o'clock in the afternoon at school, Mrs. D's gonna call home. Yeah, you see, I think she's done, it cannot put an event that happened at 2 o'clock together with having TV taken away that night. They don't have an association of the idea. So I understood that. So I feel that I understood.
Yeah, we heard that from the family, that when they've taken that time in the, you know, evening to recount what happened, it's like it clicks, and then they become emotional, they feel bad that they made that mistake at home. You know, it just took that time to click, oh, that's what happened, you know, outside.
Okay, well, I'm just making, but there was a very simple rule, you know, you throw a tantrum. There's no TV for one night. And it's only taken away for one night, because 2 weeks is like 100 years for little kids. Just very simple and done very consistent. We have some rules with kidding and things like that.
Yeah.
Now, the thing is, he has to be able to make the relate, to understand the concepts. Some individuals don't have enough association ability to understand that, what he was saying, you know what, I did understand that. I'm gonna have to, sign off. I got another Zoom call tonight, and gotta get up early for a flight tomorrow, get some emails answered. And so let's just take a couple more questions.
Does anybody have a couple more questions? Come on up, Ashley.
Hello, my name is AJ. I am a kid with autism, and I honestly know that I'm generally not socially normal. In general, I think in terms of numbers, equations, logics, graphs.
Okay, you're a mathematician then. And maybe you need to get a math club started in your school.
The only
Or a
problem,
a programming club or something like that.
the only problem is no one else in my studio is interested in anything I'm interested in.
Well, maybe you need to take a college course in math. I'm serious. I am serious.
My biggest subject is computer science.
Well, then you should take a college computer science course.
I've watched all of Crash Course Computer Science, I want to say 7 times. I've watched Crash Course AI, and I own an IBM PC Junior.
Well, maybe you need to take what grade are you in now?
6th,
Maybe you need to take a high school computer science course. Oh, I'm serious, because the stuff that I was studying is too babyish. I know parents that are taking their kids to college classes now, they have to sit through the classes, with their kids. But, one mom, she took her little kid in, and he's like, Tammy, physics class, and he was getting an A in it. No, I think you need to take some more advanced classes. And then there are also places where you can find some friends.
okay.
No, that's what they can do, take a college, take a high school physics class, take a high school computer science class, go down to community college and take a computer science class.
One other thing, I also feel like my mother generally doesn't listen to me.
Well, a lot of regular people don't understand English. No, I think a good computer science class might be just the right thing to do. Okay, college, an introduction to computer science, you probably put that college. Is there any place because you're not old enough to drive, you ride a bike? All right, we can walk over to the high school. You can take that course in the high school, and I don't want to hear some bureaucratic nonsense reason why you can't take a physics class or a computer class in high school. That's what you need to make it happen and cut to the yours. We're 6th grade math. No, this is the problem. Kids that are super good at math and they move in. Go to the high school across the street, let's start attending the science classes in it.
Does anyone have another question before we say
I'm
goodbye?
glad I got a chance to do that question.
Yes. Anybody else?
I just wanted to get your opinion on STEMing. In ABA, it seems like
they encourage stimming, which can be good, but when it is something that affects being out in the community, how can we get them to
What
generalize?
kind of thing are they doing?
I've seen all kinds of stimming, but some stimming is physical, it is loud, it is not going to be socially accepted, so then they will not be able to generalize as far as going to a restaurant or to
Well,
Walmart.
maybe we can figure out some of the things they can still with, fidget spinner or something like that. There's a lot of people at restaurants. Yeah, try to find something else that they can do. I mean, I used to do this in class with him. Or that in class with friends.
Yeah.
That's not a fit in class.
My son has a question.
I think you jump him. Like this, I don't know if you feel on the screen. Well, I put it on, let's put down his books and paper, and I would jump pants.
Hi,
Yeah.
my name's Noah, and I'm like doing programming, paper folding, I'm doing anything. Just not science, unless I get to blow things up.
But the thing is, there's certain things that there's some stemming, fine, it doesn't make any noise. The people that leg up and down, that's stemming. Jiggling the leg up and down, it doesn't bother anybody. Like you take people that have Tourette, but they first were in charge of construction for the Artemis rocket's launch pad on Tourette. And he had an eye wiggle. He had to make a teeth that didn't bother him, there's eye wiggles. When I found out he had Tourette's, I found his stick, his eye wiggle. Another person might go like that. That doesn't bother him. But if there may be some kind of verbal tennis disruptive. Maybe he won't do it if you give him a chance to do it before we go to the restaurant. You can do it.
In celebration of your event tonight, Dr. Temple, Grandin, we put these little brains together here, and it says, all minds are magic. And
Oh, okay,
so
great.
that was something we thought of about tonight.
The thing is, society needs the skills of people with autism. I'm going to estimate that on the equipment that was designed, people that go with, about 50% of them are autistic, dyslexic, or ADHD, and that's on those slides.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Dr. Temple Grandin.
And I hope I've given you some insights.
Yes, we have. We are greatly appreciative.
I've got to get some emails answered, and I got to get on another Zoom call just under 2 hours from now.
Thank you for your time and your knowledge.
You are very welcome. It's been great to talk to everybody, and I'm going to leave the meeting, and thank you for having me.
Thank you